Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, excited to be back here in London on Savile Row. The bespoke journey of building a wardrobe is an endeavor that, when done properly, takes years, if not decades. Of course, the allure lies in the unparalleled elements of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition that one finds in a proper Savile Row bespoke suit. These are not merely clothes, they are a narrative of personal style and dedication, where every commission speaks of the sartorial excellence and artistry that cannot and should not be rushed. Last year, my good friend Eddie Sahakian embarked on his own bespoke journey with the renowned tailoring house Henry Poole. As a first commission, Simon guided Eddie towards a beautiful, timeless, and exceptionally versatile dark gray herringbone. And as it is no surprise with any suit from Henry Poole, the final result was an absolute masterpiece, which, I have to admit, left me slightly envious, or perhaps I should say, inspired. So back in London, I thought I myself might indulge myself by dropping by Henry Poole to consider what the next step in my own bespoke journey from this firm might look like. So join me as I step back inside Henry Poole and experience the enduring magic of true bespoke tailoring. Simon.
Kirby, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
You know,
Welcome.
always nice to be back in London. And of course, visiting Poole is always on the schedule. One of the things I love about Savile Row is, despite being a street of institutions, I mean, these heritage firms that have literally been here for hundreds of years, there's always something interesting going on. You can see this in many cases literally reflected in the windows. Yeah. You've got a fascinating window display. I mean, anything exciting around the corner?
Absolutely. This is going to be our third year of the concourse. So basically we invite various manufacturing car companies we host them here. And of course, it's about the craft of their industry, much as we do in our craft. So, it's bespoke making a car, it's bespoke making your smaller details, and even keeping cars and restoring them. That's what the craft is about. So in doing so, we have this wonderful 2-day event that takes place 22nd of May, 23rd of May, and we are hosting Mercedes, which is quite exciting.
Well, don't you guys literally close down the entire street for this?
Absolutely. The street is closed down. We have about 40 cars on their way. They are modern cars, but they're also going back to 1909, classic sort of 30s pre-war cars, beautiful post-war sort of 50s, 60 cars. Yeah. And it's all about the sort of luxury, but in a craft way. And we're celebrating this year is 60 years of the Gullwing, which of course is a beautiful, iconic car. So
talk about a showstopper, the Gullwing, incredible vehicle. What's with the motorcycle? I mean, again, quite an interesting piece. I mean, we're talking about cars, but this is, predates even those.
This is quite remarkable. So
motored bicycle.
It is. That's what it was actually called. It's called the riding vehicle. I suppose Richtwagen, I think it's called by Mercedes as well. In fact, it was the three people that really invented the combustion engine. There was Daimler, there was Benz, and there was Maybach. And these three gentlemen sort of brought this combustion engine, and different methods, different thought processes. So Benz made his own sort of vehicle that took the combustion engine into a vehicle that purposely worked, while Daimler took the engine and put it onto things, such as bicycles, carriages, to get the motivation going by this system. So here we have this wonderful bicycle with a sort of strapped on little engine, and that's what this is. And this was 1885. This is when it was started. So this has especially come all the way from Germany. So having the riding cycle, as it's known, having it here in London is quite special. And it's been all the way from Germany. So that's going to be one of our key moments in the window, and it'll be lit up at night. It'll be quite special.
And I saw a large piece of an automobile in here also. What was the story with that?
Well, that's part of the fender, basically. Yeah. So basically that's a fender of the Gullwing. Okay. So it's showing the parts that go into making the construction of a car and the depth of quality it is. So even having the Gullwing seat here, in half you can actually see the fabrics, the interlinings, the spring systems that go into the actual seat itself.
Yeah, and I merely thought that was an update of the old saddles that you would have in the fitting room, which have now in many ways become relics. You'd have your car seat to sit in to see how your driving coat fit.
It is, yeah. If you think about it, it's all very much taking, the comfort, that's something special for the individual, or the purpose that became use to intertwine with having something made.
Yeah.
So as you know, the riding coat was made here for many occasions, and therefore we have the actual horse seat to sit on it to get the actual height of the coat right.
I think you hit on an interesting point, which is how in your line of work, I mean, in Bespoke, pure Bespoke, as one finds here on Savile Row, how you're able to take these garments and really inflect very specific and very unique kind of use cases so that the clothing really is fitting the lifestyle of the individual versus perhaps the other way around. You know, we saw this with our first commission, you know, the shooting suit, the tweed, you know, which really was a purpose-built performance, you know, outfit, really more than anything else. I mean, it wasn't meant for fashion. I mean, although very fashionable, right? It was ultimately, you know, with the thorn-proof tweed cloth, you know, meant to be out there in the elements. And then the certain integration of the, you know, the pleats in the back and the bellowed pockets for the shells. I mean, really meant to, you know, to really, you know, inflect its use case, I suppose.
Well, that's why you have a 5-piece. The 5-piece is ultimately the one suit you'll have for many occasions. And, you know, having the purpose for the shoot could be the stalking side where you have the +4s giving you the reach with the movement. But then you have obviously the trousers made, so you can sit and have lunches and have it as a 3-piece suit. And then finally you can have extra things with all the bellows pockets, the shooting piece, the hat, the cap, to make it quite a sort of dandy piece to look at when it's finished off.
Yeah, and then we saw the opposite side of that, right, with Eddie Sahakian. Of course, that beautiful Bespoke suit that we surprised him with, as being, you know, in many ways a quintessential suit for the city. I mean, something that one could, you know, literally wear every single day. But again, with those small kind of details making it bespoke for Eddie, the cigar pockets and kind of other details, you know, that were unique to him, right? But still something that I know Eddie is enjoying and getting a lot of use out of. So I was thinking kind of as a next commission maybe, kind of where I would go. I mean, I've got this incredible tweed suit, which in some cases is, you know, was putting the cart before the horse and what would traditionally be one's bespoke journey. So I think for this, you know, in thinking about having a pure bespoke Savile Row suit made, of kind of maybe going back to the beginning and thinking a little bit about you, or thinking a little bit with you about kind of a foundational piece. Maybe something that's slightly 4 seasons, something that I could wear in London and really get a lot of use out of. So I'm curious, kind of, again, with your expertise and experience, kind of where you would take me, what you would recommend. You know, we can't do the dark gray herringbone because I can't be twinsies with Eddie, so we'll have to come up with another idea.
Another option. Yeah, I mean, always ask yourself, you know, is the purpose? What's the suit for? You know, is it going to be for impact, a business, a statement, or is it going to be something more humble, where you're obviously there to enhance meeting people? Climate, the other thing, you know, you touched on that, so definitely it's a climate part of it, so all season, all year round, apart from perhaps the super hot temperatures. This is the kind of thing.
Or super cold.
Or super cold, exactly. So, you know, that's the purposes. So you're on number 2 or 3, you've got to go into something now. Yeah, it gives you a little bit more scope to make a little bit diversified in terms of design, but still keeping it on the classic side.
And so that's where, you know, you of course, as the managing director of Henry Poole, as the front of house representative that's really, you know, in most all cases, managing these relationships, would kind of use as the foundation for making recommendations on the cloth.
Yeah. So we at the front shop, anyone here at the front shop, is to serve a purpose to obviously receive and take in what the customer wants, but also it's also exiting the actual firm as well with a beautiful suit. And you have to remember that you're building this wardrobe together. And that's every time you're doing something. So it has to evolve in the wardrobe and have a purpose and a function and a quality. And the service comes with it. So that's what we do.
And do you really see yourself as your role as kind of a guide and an advisor? Right?
It is.
Certainly more than just an order taker.
No. You see, we don't have that sort of drive and pushing for having many suits. We want to have the right suit and having the purpose for longevity that serves that purpose, and that's what we do in our world. So whether you have 1 or whether you have 5, in that time you're building a wardrobe slowly, but productivity makes a sense of it. So I have some ideas, and
Yeah.
perhaps you'd like to sort of see
Of
some
course.
bunches and things. That'd
This
be
is
fine.
where it gets fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's put some away. So here we go. I've got some ideas here. So this is a sort of collective mix of various fabrics for various occasions, purpose, weights, etc. And we touched on a few things, how the weights have been changing. So in the world we have, traditionally, we always were a sort of temperature of 13, 14 ounce, heavy sort of function, duty fabrics. This was about 13, 14 ounces, very much the British sort of weight. 20 years has seen a change dramatically in terms of weights and fabrics. So we moved on to something like 11 ounce, which is 11, 12, 10, 11 is now much the sort of spring, fall, winter season.
Yeah, so almost 3 seasons. I mean,
Exactly.
with the exception of the extremes, extreme heat, like what we get in Texas in August, or the extreme cold, which you find in London in February.
Yeah.
This would be kind of a year-round suit.
Exactly. And then you have something like the 8, 9 ounce worsteds, which is really back to your Texas, New York summer, that kind of thing. But I think it sounds to me you prefer that.
Well, I would prefer to lean on the heavier side.
Right.
For, one, the weight of the cloth, what it offers for the drape, right? For the durability and longevity, this is a foundational piece. I mean, it'll be, only my second piece from Savile Row, so we very much need this to be something that goes the distance. And so I probably would lean between these two. I would say, personally, I'm comfortable with heavier weights, right? Again, recognizing that it won't be appropriate for the extremes, right? The extreme cold or the extreme hot. So I'd say I'd be comfortable with this, but then, even 10 or 11, depending on kind of where you would take me, I'd say don't be afraid to push me to that, but I'm very much interested in kind of where you would go.
Yeah. I think Eddie was 11 with a herringbone.
Yeah.
I think we can go back to 11. We can go a little bit into 10 maybe. So I think we'll start with that. I think, here we are with your bird's eye, classic London suit, really timeless piece. It's essential in the wardrobe to have a bird's eye. It's essential to have a pinhead. It's essential to have a herringbone, and it's essential to have perhaps a Prince of Wales check. The question is how you play that card. So when you're looking at bunches, the broadly speaking, you have to think about the collective of your wardrobe, and really there is a number of suits that are essential to have. And ultimately the pinheads are probably the starting blocks. They're very easy. They're very much,
So this is a pinhead right here.
A pinhead there. It's this lovely sort of a nailhead, I think you call it in the US. But this one gives you that lovely marble effect. Being the color codes of the yarn being 2 different colors, it gives a kind of depth to it versus just two colorways. Like a serge. This is very much more the grey trousers or the blue blazer. But with suits, you get the pinheads that give you that marble effect, and they're timeless to work with many check shirts, striped shirts, it's an open ticket. So that's a very, very essential one to have.
Yeah. What I like about these, with that gray herringbone that you recommended for Eddie, it offers that visual texture.
Yes.
To give it a little bit more visual interest than just a simple solid.
Exactly. And that's, I think, what's lovely about the first suits. It's just to make a little bit of hint of interest. So classically, number 1 would be probably the pinheads. Moving second on to the bird's eyes. I think it was a great choice having a bird's eye in the actual wardrobe as well. And then we have to start to think about the next one, because there's so many varieties of things like stripes. Now, stripes are great, and they were great back in the sort of 80s, but they've become quite a unique sort of role today.
Something like this, a pinstripe. Like
exactly. You can see from here that we have these actually are house specials. So these were named after famous photographs. So this, of course, was the great Churchill with his shot of the Tommy gun, which is obviously made by Fox. It's the same fabric as it was. It becomes a house special.
Yeah,
this indeed is named after Randolph Hearst, again a great customer. He always wear a sort of black and a blue shade, and we put it with stripes. You can put it with just the plains.
With the Cundey tie to the house. Is that the Cundey tie?
It's a Cundey tie, that's after my grandfather. So they all have a purpose, they all have a function, and they're uniquely made here. And we have many, many that are house specials that is always nice to see, and people spot it when they're traveling, which is always nice.
Yeah. And I guess what's interesting about Poole is that you don't so much have a house style that's rigid, but you do have house specials, right? Certain kind of signatures that have been, of course, developed over the company's incredible, multi-generational, multi-century history.
It's lovely to celebrate. Part of this year will be obviously Sir Winston Churchill. We're celebrating 150 years since his birth this November, so it's a big sort of celebration year for us with Sir Winston, and we're developing a 50p coin that's coming out, so that's quite exciting. We in turn are celebrating by hopefully having a cufflink coming out later on this summer, so that's a little nod to his little doodles that he did with his wife Clementine. So there's all these special moments that we celebrate, but that's what we love to do here.
Yeah, and I see we even have the dinner suit behind you, which of course was invented here at Poole.
That's iconically one of the things that is special here, and I think that dresswear, it's a go-to place to have a beautiful tuxedo, and we get that from around the world that people come here. It's a subject to talk about when you go to dinner. And the midnight blue, the Poole, it's all about having that dinner wear.
But the fact that one could have their dinner suit made from the firm that literally made the first dinner suit in and of itself is a conversation starter.
That's it, over dinner, So these house specials have become quite synonymous with our customers, and they very much enjoy it, and that's a talking point.
But this is the heritage and the authenticity, where it's not some contrite model that some fashion design student sketched on a blank sheet of paper. I mean, these are pieces that very authentically evolved from your history with your clients.
Yeah, and that's hopefully what this year we'll celebrate, where we hope to go to Chartwell. We've got a number of suits that are hidden away in the vaults there that they're going to be celebrating, bringing them out, talking about the photograph with Sir Winston with that suit that is in our books in the vaults downstairs. So this is the kind of thing that we hope we'll be celebrating this year. And obviously, seeing the great museum piece at Blenheim Palace, where they did homage to his birth there. So of course, again, we did the suit for the waxwork, which is quite nice as well. So there's a lot of history.
Yeah, well, the authenticity is, it doesn't get any more authentic and real than it does at a place like Poole. But back to this.
So back to that, we were diversing on that.
There's so much to talk about.
So the bird's eye, the pinheads. This is another one. I would say the stripes we spoke about. So again, the power suit. I mean, that's great if you're going to be in court, if you're going to make a speech and you want someone to listen and the depth of it. This is where these power suits come into play. But Kirby?
Yeah, it's a little too much, But it's interesting how the fabric does have the ability to signal. Right, because I mean that's ultimately our wardrobe is what it is we wear to go out there into the world and do battle, or to do our work, and there is very much a subtle signaling in the selection one makes.
Exactly.
Something like this would be way too bold for me, but it's for the right person a perfect choice.
So a lot of legal houses will choose something like this still today because they want to make that impact and that make attention to that point.
And I've seen some ladies' suits done in a really bold pinstripe or chalk stripe that I think work really well for women. I know that you do some women's wear as well, but again, to really kind of make a statement, it in some ways, is balancing, I guess.
Business suits for ladies, we actually doing very successful. We have a female cutter now here, Manetta, who comes in, she measures, she makes. So it's a full service, which is something which we did do back in the day. We haven't done it, for probably 50, 60 years, but now we're actually building that because there is a definite market for the ladies. And something like a trouser suit like this is very dynamic and very punchy, which is lovely.
Be a little too much. So what about something in between? Again, I wouldn't go with just a simple solid because I feel like I have that represented.
You've got the window checks. They're
window checks
also
are great.
Snappy, very, very good look. But I think that's, again, down the line.
Down the line.
So let's move back into what we call the Prince of Wales checks. And as you can see, there is bolder ones, which people wear and people have, and that's something like these sort of ones here. So it's a lot stronger, recognizable from a distance.
This is what I associate with the Prince of Wales check is something stronger, and maybe kind of with the overcheck that has that color you're bringing in. Again, that kind of narrows it. But something like this that is effectively a solid. I mean, am I seeing a little bit of blue worked in here? I mean, it's almost like a shadow. I don't even know if it's a trick of my eye or if it's there.
So here you have is the Prince of Wales check in a much more discreet way. A little bit more calming, a little bit more, understated, shall we say. So you
soft
get
visual texture.
Absolutely.
But at a distance would almost register as a solid.
Yeah. So when you come close, you have a little bit of interest, and when from distance, it's plain.
Yeah.
Now, this one indeed has the little discrete blue overcheck, but you can get it in another format where indeed it has no overcheck. And that's the beauty, of course, is you can then wear any tie you wish.
Yeah.
So you can wear red, you can wear blue, and everything. And this, to me, would be logical for the next step in a wardrobe for yourself.
Well, I find that, I like where we're going. I mean, I would lean towards gray versus blues. I feel like look better with my complexion. You know, between kind of a mid-gray and a dark gray, where would you go?
I think the beauty with the greys is you can dress it up formally, black shoe, white shirt, but you also dress it with just no tie and just a grey, a blue shirt and brown shoe. That's the beauty with the greys. Blue is always going to be black, really, shoe. But I think personally, I probably would step towards, being you have the charcoal, I would do one up and go into the mid-grey. You don't need to go light grey, but I think the mid-grey will be a difference to this. You can then, say, wear that as a day suit, and it breaches you into the evening. This is too light for the evening, but this you can get away with. And that would be the right sort of course forward. And wearing it with a nice shoe like you're wearing today would be perfect.
Yeah, and then I guess contrast that a little bit with the dark gray, because with the conservative in me kind of always goes slightly darker. But this, might not be the right choice, because again, it would either limit its versatility, or might pass an opportunity to actually create a better looking suit.
So if you're going to go, again, the safer bet is to go darker. That's always the better way in terms of if it's going to be, a choice of going forward for many occasions, the darker suit will always win.
Okay.
The number one is they are more elegant, they're more dressy. It's a big contrast between shirts, obviously, with white and dark grey versus mid-grey. Can be a little bit demure and a bit funeralistic in some ways, the dark grey. But again, the central wardrobe, you need that kind of dark grey. So it really is two different formats. The dark grey being a little more elegant than the mid-grey.
Yeah.
So
for something in and around London, I almost see myself, if I'm going to the club, dark grey.
Yeah.
If I'm, again, in and around Savile Row and kind of St. James's, maybe that dark grey.
It sounds like you're going towards dark grey. Kirby, honestly, this is where you're ticking the boxes now, asking yourself how often, where you're going to be wearing a suit and what purpose. Yeah. And it sounds to me that even though we got the bird's eye, which is a very much different fabric to this one, you can see the difference in terms of the design.
I see that these are almost more similar than this. And I think back to one of the first bespoke suits I had made, which was a dark gray herringbone, similar to what we made for Eddie. And I just remember getting so much use out of that. And this, to me, kind of invokes that memory while being different. We're not trying to remake that, right? But this allows us to have the visual texture, right, of something that's not simply a plain solid.
All for that.
While still having something that, is quite formal, which is, I feel like whenever I'm dressing up, kind of how.
By far, it's more formal, the dark grey. Of course, the cut is going to make it very special as well. It's going to be the elegance in the cut as well. So you've got both from the fabric and the cut, giving you that sort of all-year suit with purpose.
Okay. Well, there we go. I think that this is the one that is calling my name, and
it's a perfect choice, Kirby. Really good choice. It's timeless. It's worthy for the next item in the wardrobe. So let's mark that one, flip it aside.
Yeah.
And I think the next thing is just to give you a little bit of a check measure.
Yeah,
which is normal every time we see a customer.
Yeah. I've been all over the place this last year, it seems like, so we definitely should do that.
Yeah.
Well, if I might also indulge myself, right? So we've got, again, the tweed suit. This would be a beautiful addition to my wardrobe, kind of a Four Seasons London city suit. Yeah. If I wanted to do something maybe that did allow me to go a little bit into something slightly more seasonal, maybe something that I could wear, outside of London, maybe in Europe during the summer, or maybe even in Cuba, place that I've had the great fortune of traveling to lately quite often. What would you suggest, right? Because, and would you suggest anything? Because so often I feel like London, especially Savile Row, is is associated with that heavy tailoring, those heavy British cloths, right? The structure. But can you work with the lighter weight cloths? Is that something that you see now out of London, and one doesn't need to go to Italy?
Well, that's just what happened. I mean, obviously, 2017, 2018, we saw a couple of customers, in fact, a few customers that were saying that, I'm going to buy my British suits for the winter time and the Italian suits for the summer. And for me, that was hard to hear. You understood that they thought this armory was being built for them for the winter suits in London, and everything was heavy and canvassing. And our canvassing has changed. We have a heavyweight and lightweight canvassing, and even the construction has changed. So, we as a company, and this was, and our cutters in the back, Alex and Philip, already in 2017, from demand from Swiss and Austrian customers, were wanting a lighter weight construction.
Okay.
And that's what happened. So we looked into our construction of our canvassing and our domette and our lap tear, all that parter. We changed it around a little bit, so we can actually cater for that.
Really? Okay.
So not only in the actual fabric, which you can see, for example, like these two here, but very much so in the construction itself.
Yeah. And is it more than just simply changing the fabric? I mean, if someone is, going to something that's lightweight, I mean, it's more than just a fabric choice.
I think the
The
thing
construction has to change.
has to change. It has to change inside. There's a lot of solutions. There's a lot of pocketings to deal with. There's a lot of domette that's very it's a lovely fluffy material, but it has a purpose. But it has to actually change in weight. Okay. How you put it in certain parts versus everywhere. But by changing that, it changes the construction and the feel of the jacket.
So literally, it changes everything about the way the suit is made.
Yeah, but. Yeah. For us, we want to have the Poole look.
Yeah, okay.
That's key, because what we didn't want to do is to have a Nepalese looking coat or a Milanese looking coat, because they're beautifully made and in their own right are very much their style. But what we wanted to do was have the Poole, obviously shoulder, the Poole gorge line, the Poole shoulder ends, very similar to what
with a little bit of roping, but not overly roped.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what we created. Okay. And the classic case really is something like the Henry Poole check. This was designed by my father in 1987 with Cameron Buchanan of George Harrison's. It was a 11-ounce, 12-ounce worsted tweed, and it really gravitates to something where you can wear with chinos, twill trousers, flannels. But with the demand of the temperatures, we then, with the course of many other brands and cloth houses, becoming used to linen, silk and wools, or linen and wool. So we actually asked the mill again to recreate this check into a super lightweight linen, silk and wool.
Really? And
fabric.
Is that what this is?
And this is the new one. So this is brand new. This is coming out now. And this actually is going from 11-ounce to 7-ounce fabric.
Wow.
So this gives you the chance.
7 ounces?
7 ounces.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now with this
you would hardly know it, you know.
It doesn't look, it still looks, and looks like a tweed or looks like a sort of heavy cloth. But here we have now this 7-ounce fabric, exclusively for Poole, the house check itself. And ideally you can wear this with a lovely pair of chinos, blue and grey chinos, fawn cottons, and make it into a sort of summer jacketing. Yeah. With a Poole cut.
Yeah. And so again, it has the historical relevance. I mean, this is an iteration or an evolution of this traditional Poole house check, but updated kind of for the times.
Exactly.
And now it's, I guess, paired with a evolved or updated construction technique that allows Poole to really even work with fabric like this.
For interior as well, that's the whole point. So this gives you a chance to wear this now in warmer climates, such as Texas, such as, south of France. You can wear this as a sort of casual jacket. Yeah. And that's the joy with it.
I really like this, And one of the other things I find myself enjoying is, I mean, silk and linen are two of my favorite fibers. I mean, they're so unique in their characteristics and what they add. And so to have wool, silk, and linen is really kind of the best of all worlds.
Yeah, the pure linen is lovely, but as you know, it wrinkles. And within 10 minutes, you look like, for photo opportunities, it's always great to have a beautifully suit when you arrive, and within 10 minutes it looks like it's wrinkled all over. By adding the actual linen with the wool and the silk gives that lovely fall out that actually recovers and it comes back. So this is how this works.
And it's still British, right? It still has that British identity. I mean, the Prince of Wales, of course, is not an Italian pattern, right?
No.
But it has that lightweight kind of hand to it.
Yeah, and we can make this again, half line it. So this is another dynamic that gives you that lightweight breeze through with the actual winds and the coolness of it. So this is another part of making it lightweight as well. So fully lined, half lined, it's what we do as well.
When I think about wearing this with my Panama hat, I think would be perfect.
Yeah.
What type of trousers would you pair this with?
So this is where another gabardines is fantastic. So you can still keep the wool gabardines, but nice lightweight. So again, 8-9 ounce gabardines are fantastic to wear with this to give you that wool presence. You can wear chinos, the cottons, the lovely lightweight cottons. Just a pair of those with a lovely suede, loafer would be fantastic. With or without socks, I don't know. But.
Well, that's debatable. Wow, I'm getting excited. I think that this
I think
is
it'd
it.
be great.
Yeah. And I like the idea of, again, having something that's very identifiable and traceable back to Poole as a point of pride, right? That one can wear, signaling that they've literally arrived at Poole.
Yep. You'll be traveling around the world and there'll be people that know this check. And this is synonymous here at Poole. And the people you'll bump into at the airports or the clubs or various places will say, oh, you're wearing Poole.
It's the equivalent for the well-dressed gentleman of the Birkin bag. It's a subtle signal that only those who know.
No, exactly.
But speaks volumes.
Yeah, a little nod.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, great.
Fantastic.
There we go. I think that's definitely enough to work on for the next year. This is my annual allocation here. But these are two things I'm very excited about. So
that's great.
Simon, thank you.
Kirby, a pleasure.
Always a
really,
pleasure.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be lovely to make.
I have to say, I've got a smile on my face with excitement of what will be another chapter in a great journey here at Henry Poole.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure, Kirby.